Since 1976, there have been 17 NBA teams that have either relocated or were formed via expansion. Why am I telling you this? Because I thought you should know. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. Oh, what's that? There's more to this. Oh, okay. So we'll get to the point of all this actually here shortly. But before we get that far, here's a 58-second history lesson on the ABA-NBA merger. In, you guessed it, 1976, there were 18 total teams in the National Basketball Association. And while Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were building the first Apple computers in their garage, the NBA merged with the ABA, starting what is considered the modern era of pro basketball.
It's all coming together. This is it.
When was 1976? Rocky, the original one, was the top movie in America. Forget Spotify and Netflix. Walkmans and camcorders hadn't even been invented yet. Think about it this way. 1976 was closer to the end of World War II than we are right now to 1976 by 16 years.
It's been 84 years.
So, it was a long time ago. 4 teams were added, along with other cool things like the three-point line, the dunk contest, and the fast, open, exciting pace of the game that we now know.
Basket with that ball. Look at that move. That's the best play I've seen this season.
There were 22 teams now, and the ABA was disbanded, and the NBA was now officially the league for professional basketball. And since the merger, there have been 17 relocations or expansions in the NBA. The first one was the New York Nets, moving across the Hudson to become the New Jersey Nets. And ironically, the most recent one is them moving back across the Hudson to become the Brooklyn Nets. In between, we saw the birth of teams like the Mavericks, the Hornets, the Heat, the Magic, Timberwolves, Raptors, Grizzlies, and Bobcats, along with other relocations like the Jazz, Clippers, Kings, Memphis Grizzlies, New Orleans Hornets, and of course, the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2008. And while the Thunder were technically a relocated franchise, they really were more expansion-y.
Is that even a word?
They came to Oklahoma City without so much as a logo or a name, and started from scratch with a 29-year-old general manager and a roster that had just won 20 games. But now, we sit here 15 seasons later, with the Thunder in their 16th season in Oklahoma City, and when you take stock of those 15 years, specifically against those other 17 relocated or expanded teams, it's pretty interesting. Like, for instance, the Orlando Magic, who, along with Taylor Swift, were established in 1989 as an expansion team. Nick Anderson was their first ever draft pick, then they took Dennis Scott in 1994 overall, then they landed Shaquille O'Neal in 1992, and in his first season, they made a major improvement to 41-41. They unexpectedly won the lottery with only one ping pong ball in 1993 and selected Chris Webber, but sent him to the Warriors for the 3rd overall pick, Penny Hardaway, and 3 future first rounders. The next season, they jumped to 50 wins and had their first ever playoff appearance. They added Horace Grant in free agency and won 57 games and went to the finals. The second fastest team, at the time, to ever do that. And in 1995-96, they won 60 games, but were swept by this guy named Michael Jordan and his Chicago Bulls team. And then Shaq left in free agency for the Lakers. They scrapped to 45 wins with Penny as their new solo star, but it began to slide from there. They hired legendary coach Chuck Daly in 1997, with Dr. J joining their front office, but Penny was hurt for much of the season, and Nick Anderson, along with new addition Bo Outlaw, won 41 games. They traded Ronnie Cycli in 1998 and drafted Michael Doliak and Matt Harpring with the 12th and 15th pick, but with Penny healthy, they went 33-17 in a lockout-shortened season. It's also when, amazingly, Dominique Wilkins played a season in Orlando, producing an all-time, wait, he played for who? But they lost in the first round. They hired rookie coach Doc Rivers in 1999 and won 41 games. 2000 was a pivotal year for the Magic. With Doc as a free agent draw and cap space to burn, the Magic tried to land Tim Duncan, Grant Hill, and Tracy McGrady, a big-time big three, in free agency. Duncan, though, decided last minute to stick with the Spurs, but they did sign McGrady and Hill. But Grant Hill suffered an ankle injury that limited him to just 4 games the next season, and Orlando still won 43 games, but lost in the first round of the playoffs. The next season, Hill dealt with that same ankle issue all year long, but T-Mac led them to 44 wins, but they again lost in the first round. In 2002-2003 season, T-Mac led the league in scoring, but the Magic only won 42 games. They did take a 3-1 lead in the first round over the Pistons before, of course, the Pistons came back and won in 7 games.
This team is going to go as far as I take them. I tried my best. I tried, man.
Their 15th season, they lost 19 straight games, finishing 21-61. Doc Rivers was fired, but T-Mac did lead the league in scoring again. Another one real quick, the Utah Jazz. They relocated to Salt Lake City in 1979, which of course was 10 years before Taylor Swift was born. After 5 seasons in New Orleans, the first few seasons were rough with financial issues and poor attendance, but in 1983, the team started to swing up with their first winning season behind Adrian Dantley, Thurl Bailey, and Mark Eaton, winning 45 games. In 1984, the team selected John Stockton with the 16th overall pick, a pick Utah Jazz fans were not initially thrilled by.
Utah Jazz select John Stockton of Gonzaga University.
But in 85-86, Eaton won Defensive Player of the Year with a ridiculous 5.6 blocks per game, still an NBA season record, and with Stockton running point, returned to the playoffs and won their first ever series before losing in the second round. Then in 1985, with the 13th overall pick, the Jazz selected Karl Malone. With some injuries to key starters like Dantley and Darrell Griffith, they lost in the first round. But that year, Larry Miller bought the remaining stake in the Jazz, preventing a likely relocation to Minneapolis. In 86, Dantley was traded, and the Jazz lost in the first round again. 87-88 was the beginning of the true Stockton and Malone era, with the team winning 47 games and advancing to the second round before losing to the eventual champion Lakers in 7 games. 1988, legendary coach Frank Layden stepped down and Jerry Sloan took over. The Jazz won 51 games in his first season, but as the 2 seed were upset in the first round by the Warriors, next season they won a franchise-best 55 games, with the mailman averaging 31 and 11, and Stockton averaging 17 points and 14.5 assists. But again, the Jazz went down in an upset in the first round. They won 54 games in 90-91, advancing to the second round. Then in 91-92, moved into the Delta Center, which was a major improvement from the Salt Palace. Salt Palace? And they won 55 games, and for the first time advanced to the Western Conference Finals before losing in 6 games to Portland. 92-93, they won 47 games but lost in the first round again. 93-94, season number 15 for the Jazz, they acquired Jeff Hornacek, won 53 games, and made it back to the West Finals before losing to Hakeem Olajuwon and the Rockets in 5 games. It was year 18 for the Jazz, where they finally made it over the hump and got to the NBA Finals before, well, we all know what happened there.
Jordan a drive, hangs, fires, scores! He scores! The Bulls lead 87-86. Oh my goodness!
Those 2 franchises, the Utah Jazz and Orlando Magic, both had an incredibly eventful first 15 years, with tons of success, Hall of Fame players, and memorable seasons. But still, compared against them and all other relocated or expanded franchises since 1976, and here's the point to all of this, it's actually the Thunder who had indisputably the best first 15 seasons of any of them. Better than Shaq and Penny's Magic, better than the Jazz, better than everyone. It was something Sam Presti mentioned in his preseason press conference that caught my attention.
In the spirit of the 15 years, if you look at it, since 1976, when the ABA and the NBA merged, there hasn't been a more successful first 15 years of an expanded team or relocated team. And that's more than half the league. And there's some pretty damn good organizations in that group.
So here are the numbers. The Thunder ranked first in wins per season, in net rating, in playoff series won, in plus 6.0 net rating seasons, which is a great measure of team dominance, in conference finals appearances, and Finals appearances. The Thunder has had 18 All-NBA selections and 9 first-team All-NBA selections, 2 MVPs, and 19 All-Star selections total, all by far the most. When it was happening, we all knew it was pretty special in OKC. 50 wins in the second season, the Western Conference Finals in the third season, the Finals in the fourth season. Then 2 more Western Conference Finals appearances after that. And then despite a major departure, 4 more straight playoff berths while averaging 47 wins a season. Even as the Thunder pivoted and began a rebuild in 2021, there were only 2 seasons where those wins dropped off before they returned to the 40-win mark in 2023. 12 of the 15 seasons in OKC, the Thunder have won at least 40 games. For a franchise that relocated to one of the smallest markets in professional sports and basically had to start from complete scratch with no logo, no team name, no anything, overnight to build from the ground up, the first 15 seasons in Oklahoma City are unprecedented when considering just the simple facts. And it makes you think, what could the next 15 have in store?
We cannot be wise with another man's experience. We had to go through that to learn what it is that we've learned about trying to build the best basketball team in Oklahoma City with a set of values that people here would appreciate and would resonate with them. And so the next 15 years, the second mountain, is what we're focused on now. With the experience that is our own, that we're not mimicking anyone else, we're not imitating anyone else. We're applying those first 15 years and trying to see if we can do better. Trying to see if we can do it again, where we put ourselves in position where we're playing extremely meaningful games when it gets warm out. And when you're driving to the game, and most of the games are played in the cold when you're driving, but when it starts to warm up and you have your windows down, that's when we want to be playing.